The Veldrenak Dominion had ruled half the known galaxy for more than 2 centuries. They were not a single race, but a collection of powerful species united under one goal: expansion. Their ships moved through the stars like waves of burning metal, and wherever they went, planets fell silent. No one had ever stopped them. Every world they touched either surrendered or vanished in fire. For the Dominion, victory had become routine. To them, war was no longer a risk. It was a calculation, a pattern repeated again and again until the galaxy itself seemed to bow. When their fleets appeared in a system, resistance ended before it began. Civilians fled, governments begged, soldiers laid down their arms. The Veldrenak commanders were proud of it, proud of how the galaxy had learned to fear them. But arrogance has a strange way of turning victory into blindness. When you conquer too many worlds too easily, you stop asking what might come next. And so when one of their scout ships reported a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star on the edge of a quiet spiral arm, the Dominion barely paid attention. Their council met aboard the command vessel orbiting the twin moons of Zir. The massive chamber echoed with mechanical breathing and the hum of energy conduits. The report came from a low-ranking scout officer who stood stiffly in front of the council. "A primitive world," he said. "Technology level below galactic standard. Small defense grid. Limited fleet strength. The species calls itself human." The council chamber filled with low laughter. Primitive worlds were their easiest prey. They had taken hundreds of them before, sometimes not even bothering to send ground troops. A few orbital strikes were enough to bring silence. One of the council elders waved a clawed hand lazily. "Send an envoy," he said. "Offer them the usual choice: obedience or extinction." The Dominion's flagship fleet prepared to move. Their ships looked like floating citadels, dark, jagged vessels pulsing with red energy veins. They slipped through warp space in perfect formation, hundreds of them crossing light years in a heartbeat. When they arrived in the Sol system, they expected panic. They expected cries of surrender and open communications begging for mercy. Instead, their arrival was met with silence. Earth's orbital stations detected them, of course, but there was no global broadcast, no sign of chaos. The Dominion envoy transmitted the standard message, a formal declaration of conquest, to the third planet. The message was simple: "You are under the rule of the Veldrenak Dominion. Submit all planetary authority to our command. Resistance will lead to immediate cleansing." The response came a few minutes later. It was not shouted or panicked. It was calm, direct, and spoken in clear galactic common. "This is Earth Command. You are trespassing in Sol jurisdiction. Withdraw immediately." For the first time in many cycles, the Dominion envoys hesitated. The voice that had spoken carried no fear. It wasn't a plea or a threat, it was a statement of fact. The Dominion's lead commander, High Marshal Virex, leaned forward in his chair, his spined crest twitching. "They think they can order us to leave?" he said. His second-in-command grinned, exposing rows of sharp metallic teeth. "Let us show them who they are talking to." The Dominion's first strike wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to intimidate. A plasma barrage hit one of Earth's communication satellites, turning it into molten fragments. It was a common tactic they used to silence defiant worlds. Normally, this single act was enough to make any planet realize how powerless they were. But this time, something unexpected happened. The instant the satellite exploded, every scanner and sensor across the Dominion fleet flickered. For a few seconds, all readings from Earth vanished. Their radar, thermal scans, and communication locks, everything went dark. Even the planet itself seemed to disappear from their tracking systems. The Dominion's ships floated in orbit, confused. The commander ordered a recalibration, but nothing changed. It was as if the entire planet had cloaked itself from existence. Vrex slammed his clawed hand against the armrest. "Find them!" he barked. His technician stammered, "We can't, sir. There's nothing to find." In the silence that followed, the Dominion realized this was no ordinary primitive world. Back on the planet, Earth's Defense Command watched quietly. They had seen the destruction of the satellite. They had seen the Dominion's fleet above their skies. But they didn't panic. Humanity had lived through worse, through wars, plagues, and the slow, patient climb from helplessness to strength. This wasn't the first time someone powerful had come to claim their home. And it wouldn't be the first time humanity refused. In a dimly lit control room deep beneath the surface, Officers and engineers sat around a central console. One of them, a gray-haired general, spoke softly. "They've fired the first shot." His aide nodded. "Do we respond?" The general looked up at the holographic map, the enemy fleet glittering like a swarm of red stars above Earth. "Not yet," he said. "Let them think they've won. Let them believe we're afraid. When they reach the threshold, activate the protocol." The aide's hand trembled slightly. "You mean that protocol?" The general didn't answer. He simply turned to the massive screen displaying the Dominion fleet. His voice dropped to a whisper almost to himself. "If they want to see what humans have built in silence, we'll show them." Above Earth, the Dominion continued to scan the planet, growing increasingly frustrated. Their ships circled like predators that had lost sight of their prey. Hours passed. Frex ordered his engineers to break through the interference, but every attempt failed. Their own systems began to experience strange feedback, static bursts, small system errors, and ghost signals appearing in their communication lines. Then something even stranger happened. From behind the moon, an unidentified signal appeared. It wasn't from the Dominion, nor from any known galactic faction. The transmission was silent, just a pulse of energy so strong it overloaded their long-range sensors. Before anyone could react, a massive gravitational distortion appeared between Earth and the Dominion fleet. Every ship's alarm screamed at once. The distortion grew larger, folding space like a rip in reality. And then, with a soundless flash, something emerged. It wasn't like any ship the Dominion had ever seen. It was enormous, but its surface was smooth, black, and absorbed light rather than reflecting it. There were no visible weapons, no energy signatures, just a quiet, steady hum that made the void itself seem to tremble. The Dominion fleet froze. The new vessel drifted into position directly between Earth and the invading armada. Its arrival wasn't aggressive. It was deliberate, precise, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment. Frex stood in disbelief. "Identify that ship," he ordered. His crew struggled to find any record, any registry, but nothing matched. The only readable signal coming from the vessel was a short repeating transmission. 3 words appeared on every Dominion screen. Sol Defense Protocol. The Dominion had conquered 1,000 worlds, but for the first time in their long reign, they didn't know what to do next. The ship didn't move. It didn't speak. It simply existed, blocking their path, silent and unshakable. Sensors failed to penetrate its hull. Energy scans bounced back distorted. Even the space around it felt heavier, as though gravity itself bowed to it. Some of the Dominion officers whispered that it wasn't a ship at all, but a weapon, something built for a purpose too great for the galaxy to understand. Frex snarled, trying to hide the unease creeping into his voice. "Fire a warning shot," he ordered. "Let it know who rules these stars." But deep down, even he felt something he hadn't felt in centuries: uncertainty. The order was given, and the Dominion's forward cannons began to charge, energy glowing across their hulls. Yet the black vessel remained still, silent, watching. And on Earth far below, the general leaned back in his chair and whispered to no one in particular. "They've taken so much from this galaxy. Now it's time someone reminded them who we are." He gave a single command: "Activate it." The stars above Earth flared as the vigilant dawn came fully online. For the first time in galactic history, the conquerors felt fear. The black ship stood still between Earth and the Dominion fleet. It didn't glow, it didn't move, it didn't even broadcast a message. It just floated there, massive and silent, like something too old or too powerful to care about threats. The Dominion ship surrounded it, scanning, probing, trying to read what it was. But every signal came back wrong. Some sensors showed it as solid, some as hollow, some as a storm of data that didn't make sense. Inside the Dominion flagship, High Marshal Virex grew restless. He had seen fear on 1,000 worlds, seen countless armies fall before him, but never silence like this. Every passing minute made him angrier. The strange vessel's calmness felt like an insult. "Send another message," he ordered. "Identify or be destroyed." The message went out in every known frequency. It echoed through space for several seconds, and then, to everyone's surprise, a voice answered. It was calm, steady, and undeniably human. "We heard your message," it said. "You were warned once. This is your last chance to leave." That was all. No shouting, no emotion, just a voice. The Dominion officers looked at one another uneasy. They had expected begging or threats, not something so plain. The Marshal slammed his clawed hand against the table. "They dare speak to us as equals?" He roared. "Fire a full volley. Let them see their mistake." The order spread through the fleet. Hundreds of massive cannons aligned on the single black ship. The energy buildup was so strong that nearby asteroids began to crumble under the pressure. The human ship still didn't move. Its surface absorbed light, making it seem almost unreal against the stars. The Dominion opened fire. Beams of plasma, fusion torpedoes, and antimatter warheads crossed the void in blinding color. For a few seconds, space itself seemed to burn. When the light faded, the Dominion expected to see wreckage. Instead, the ship was untouched. Every shot had vanished a few meters before reaching it, erased like chalk wiped from a board. No explosion, no defense field, just nothing. Confusion rippled through the Dominion command. "Impossible," muttered one of their engineers. "Nothing can survive that." Yet the evidence was in front of them. The black vessel still hovered calmly, as though the laws of physics had chosen to ignore the Dominion's attack. Then the human ship moved for the first time. Slowly, silently, it shifted a few degrees and released something, a single small projectile. It wasn't glowing or armed with energy. It was just a silver dart, barely the size of a shuttle. The Dominion scanners marked it as non-threatening. Vrex sneered. "Is that their weapon?" Pathetic. The dart drifted forward. It struck the first Dominion cruiser. No explosion followed, no flash. But then, without warning, the cruiser vanished. Not destroyed, gone. The ships behind it drifted forward into empty space where it had been. Then the dart passed through another cruiser and another. Each ship it touched disappeared, perfectly silent. The dart continued straight through the fleet and disappeared into deep space. The remaining ships froze. Every pilot, every officer, every soldier in the fleet suddenly felt something new. Doubt. A message came from the black vessel, soft and steady. "We asked you to leave." Back on Earth, deep inside an underground command room, the general watched through real-time displays. Around him, the control team worked quietly. They didn't celebrate, didn't cheer. Their faces showed a heavy kind of focus, the kind that comes when you know what power really costs. "How many did it take?" he asked quietly. "6 ships, someone replied. The general nodded. "Minimal response. Good, keep it that way." The Dominion fleet drifted, broken and silent. Vrex's breathing quickened. "Prepare another volley," he growled. "Full power." "I want that thing gone!" But his officers hesitated. They had seen what had just happened. Another attack might mean more disappearances, maybe all of them. Still, fear of their commander pushed them into action. Energy built up again, ready to fire. Before they could release it, the human ship spoke one more time. "Do not continue." There was a pause. Then Vrex shouted, "Fire!" The moment the words left his mouth, every Dominion ship's weapon system shut down. Entire consoles went dark. Their power cores flickered, their control systems froze. It wasn't sabotage. It was as if something inside the black ship had reached out and turned everything off. Across the fleet, panic spread. Technicians shouted reports of system failures. Navigation was unresponsive. Even gravity generators were losing stability. The Dominion ships began to drift slightly, powerless like toys in a current. And then on every screen the same 3 words appeared again. Sol Defense Protocol. The human ship began to move forward. It wasn't fast, but every Dominion sensor felt its presence like a pressure on the chest. The closer it came, the heavier the air seemed to grow. Inside the flagship, lights flickered. Vrex could barely hear over the sound of his crew's panicked chatter. "Retreat!" Someone yelled. "No!" he barked. "We are the Dominion. We do not retreat." But even as he said it, his ship began to shake. The hull creaked as invisible waves passed through it. The view screens blurred, showing strange distortions. Brief flashes of the past, then the present, then nothing. It felt like time itself was bending around them. On Earth, the general received the signal confirming the effect. "Containment field is stable," said one of the engineers. "Should we push further?" He looked at the feed showing the enemy fleet flickering in and out of existence. "No," he said quietly. "That's enough." Up in orbit, the Dominion flagship's alarms screamed. Half the fleet had vanished. Those that remained were barely holding position. The black ship stopped moving, as if giving them one final chance. Then the human voice returned, clear and calm. "This is your last warning. Leave the Sol system. Do not return. Phyrex's pride fought against his fear. We will return with more fleets. He roared into the comms. We will burn your planet and scatter your kind. For the first time, the human voice carried a tone, not anger, but sorrow. Then you will never understand, it said. Earth does not seek conquest. We seek peace, but peace ends when others force their will upon us. The connection cut. The Dominion ships began to power back up slowly. Their systems flickered to life, almost as if the human ship had released them on purpose. Phrex ordered an immediate withdrawal. No one argued. Within minutes, the great fleet that had once darkened Earth's sky turned away, forming into retreat formations. The black ship didn't follow. It simply drifted back toward the planet, silent again. As the Dominion fleet entered warp, something strange happened. The ships that had vanished earlier reappeared on their sensors, but not where they had been. They appeared thousands of light years away, scattered and drifting without control. Many were lost in deep space. Some would never be found. The rest sent panicked transmissions to their command network, claiming they had lost entire hours of memory. When the Dominion reached their nearest outpost, Phrex refused to speak of what had happened. He claimed it was a tactical failure, blaming interference and faulty data. But his officers whispered the truth among themselves. They had faced something that broke every rule of war. Back on Earth, the black ship descended slowly toward the upper atmosphere, hovering just above the clouds. People across the planet saw it, a dark shape gliding through the sky, silent and vast. Some were afraid. Others felt strangely safe. News spread across the world in hours, and soon every screen showed images of the mysterious ship watching over Earth like a guardian. In the underground command center, the general stood quietly as the ship's systems went into standby. Mission complete, said one of the technicians. Do we deactivate? The general thought for a moment. No, keep her ready. If they ever come back, she'll be waiting. Far beyond the solar system, the Dominion fleet limped home. They had conquered countless worlds, crushed countless armies, but what they met in Sol changed them forever. Rumors began to spread across their empire, that the humans were not a weak young race, but something ancient and dangerous hiding behind a mask of silence. In the following months, reports came from other factions who had tried to approach Earth and found their systems mysteriously disabled before entering orbit. No one could explain how. Some said the humans had learned to control subspace. Others whispered that their planet was protected by something not of this galaxy. The truth was simpler and far more human. Humanity had built their defense in secret, not out of greed, but out of fear of being forgotten, conquered, erased like so many others. They had learned, adapted, and waited. When the time came, they didn't strike with fury. They struck with precision. And now, as the stars burned quietly above, the people of Earth returned to their normal lives, their skies calm again. They didn't celebrate and they didn't boast. Most of the world never even learned what had really happened. Only those inside the hidden command rooms knew. They had seen what humanity was truly capable of when pushed. And somewhere above, the black ship drifted in silence, its systems pulsing gently in the dark, always watching, always waiting. For years, the Dominion had moved through the galaxy like a storm no one could stop. Their fleets burned through defenses. Their armies crushed resistance, and every world that stood against them fell one after another. To them, victory was just routine. There was no thrill in it anymore, only habit. When their scouts discovered the blue-green planet called Earth, it was supposed to be just another easy conquest. They saw it as a small world with weak defenses and a young civilization. Their commanders joked about how quickly it would fall. But what they didn't know was that Earth had already been watching them for a long time. Humanity had stayed quiet in the galactic community. They rarely attended council meetings, and they spoke little about their weapons or their plans. Some species called them peaceful observers, others called them cautious. But in truth, humans were both peaceful yet prepared. They had learned that real strength doesn't come from shouting. It comes from patience. So when the Dominion ships entered Sol space, no panic followed. Earth didn't send fleets rushing to the border. They didn't fire warning shots or broadcast desperate messages. Instead, all transmissions from Earth simply stopped. Their systems went silent. To the Dominion, this silence looked like fear. Their commander smirked as he stood before the glowing screens aboard his flagship. "They are hiding," he said. "They know what's coming." But something about the stillness felt strange. Their sensors couldn't get a clear reading of Earth anymore. It wasn't just quiet, it was as if the entire planet had slipped behind a curtain. No data, no radio, no energy signatures, just emptiness. The Dominion fleet slowed near Mars' orbit. The ship stretched across thousands of kilometers, rows of silver and crimson hulls glowing faintly against the sun's light. It was a sight meant to inspire fear, a wall of power no civilization had ever broken. Yet as they advanced, their navigation systems began to flicker. The commander frowned. "Report." "Unstable readings, sir," said his second officer. "Gravitational field distortion. Subspace interference. It's coming from ahead, from the planet?" "No, sir. From behind it." Before they could analyze further, space rippled. It started as a faint shimmer, like heat rising from a desert road. Then suddenly the stars behind Earth seemed to bend, and a shadow emerged from the distortion. At first it looked like nothing more than darkness itself, an absence of light, silent and smooth. Then the sensors started screaming. Every Dominion ship detected a massive object appearing where there had been nothing seconds earlier. It wasn't in their charts. It wasn't part of any known registry, and yet there it was, black as the void, longer than any of their battleships, with no visible markings except for a faint blue glow along its edges. Aboard the Dominion flagship, the commander stared at the readings in disbelief. "Identify that vessel," he demanded. His crew tried every database, every code. The system finally responded with a single phrase: UNS Vigilant Dawn, origin Earth. The bridge went silent. The commander leaned closer, his voice low. "A single human ship?" He laughed, though there was no humor in it. "They send one ship to stop an empire? How arrogant." But deep down, something in him felt uneasy. The ship didn't move. It didn't speak. It simply sat there, perfectly still, directly between the Dominion armada and the planet below, as if daring them to try. After minutes of silence, a signal came through, short, calm, and precise. It was from the human warship. The message contained only 3 words: "Leave. Now. Please." The Dominion commander's jaw tightened. To be warned by a single human voice felt insulting. He ordered his communications team to respond. "This is the Veldrenac Dominion. You are outnumbered. Lower your shields and surrender, or we will erase your vessel." There was no reply. The human ship remained silent. Annoyed, the commander gave the order: "Fire 1 round. Let them see what defiance costs." The Dominion's front cruisers charged their plasma cannons and fired a massive volley toward the dark ship. The sky turned bright with streaks of blue and white energy. Every shot hit directly, yet there was no explosion, no fire. The blast vanished before contact, like raindrops disappearing into mist. "Direct hits but no damage," reported the weapons officer, his voice shaking. "Sir, the readings don't make sense." The commander stared at the view screen. "Increase power." "Full barrage." Every gun across the Dominion fleet opened fire. The silence of space broke into a storm of energy. But still, the black warship remained untouched. Then the lights inside every Dominion vessel began to flicker. Their systems glitched. Their weapons powered down. A strange pulse rippled through space, gentle but unstoppable, passing through their hulls like a wave. "Sir," shouted an officer, "our engines. They're shutting down on their own." The Dominion fleet began to drift helplessly. One by one, their ships lost control. The only thing still working were the sensors, and those sensors showed the human warship now moving. Slowly, silently, it turned to face them completely. Then came the voice again. "Calm, steady and motionless, you have been warned," and with that, a blinding light filled the void. It wasn't an explosion, but something else, a ripple in space that twisted everything for an instant. The Dominion ships nearest to the front vanished. Not destroyed, vanished as though they had been erased from reality itself. The rest of the fleet tried to retreat, but their navigation systems no longer recognized where they were. In the command center of the flagship, chaos broke out. "We've lost our bearings," cried one officer. "We're reading multiple timelines overlapping coordinates." The commander slammed his fist against the console. "Impossible. This can't be happening. Find me a target, anything." But there was nothing left to target. As the flagship drifted powerless, a final transmission came through from the vigilant dawn. This is not vengeance. This is a warning. Do not return. Then the human ship turned away. Its engines glowed softly, and within seconds it vanished into subspace, leaving behind a quiet, broken battlefield. The surviving Dominion ships limped home, silent. Not a single one fired another shot. They didn't speak of what they saw. They didn't even record it. But word still spread, because fear has its own way of traveling. The soldiers who survived spoke in whispers. They said the human ship didn't attack in anger. It simply erased what threatened it. Some said it bent reality itself. Others said it never really existed, that it was just Earth's shadow taking form. But every one of them agreed on one thing. Humanity was not what the galaxy believed them to be. In the days that followed, the Dominion fleet's pride turned into confusion and unease. Their leaders demanded explanations, but no one could give one. The ship's technology couldn't be analyzed. The data from the battle showed only static, and across the galaxy as news of the encounter spread, fear mixed with awe. Some species cheered quietly, glad that someone had finally stood against the Dominion. Others grew cautious, realizing a new kind of power had awakened in the galaxy, a power that didn't brag, didn't threaten, and yet couldn't be challenged. On Earth, the people remained calm. Governments refused to comment. The world carried on as usual, factories running, ships being built, cities shining under the same sun. But in secret, somewhere beneath the oceans and mountains, a network of silent command stations stayed alert. They didn't celebrate. They didn't boast. They only waited, knowing that one day someone else might test them again. For the rest of the galaxy, one truth had become clear. The Dominion had conquered countless worlds, but on that quiet day near a small blue planet, they met something they could not conquer. Not because of numbers, not because of weapons, but because of will. And in the deep silence of space, where even the stars seemed to listen, the shadow of the vigilant dawn drifted unseen, watching, patient, and ready because humanity did not fight for pride. They fought to make sure no one ever again mistook silence for weakness. The Dominion fleet had left the Sol system, but their fear stayed behind like a shadow that would not fade. They were used to silence after battle, used to planets turned to ash and the quiet that followed. But this time the silence came from their own side. No one spoke of what they had seen. The black human warship haunted their memories more than any victory or defeat ever had. Weeks passed as they limped back toward their home territory. Their repair ships were busy around the clock, fixing systems that had burned out for no known reason. Even their strongest scientists could not explain what had happened. The energy readings made no sense. The ships that vanished and later reappeared carried data logs that seemed broken. Hours of missing time, corrupted memories, even small differences in their crews' ages. Some soldiers were older by minutes, some younger. It made no sense. On the Dominion's homeworld, the High Council demanded an explanation. High Marshal Virek stood before them in the Great Hall. He told them the humans had used a form of technology beyond anything known. He called it spatial rewriting, though he didn't understand how it worked. The Council didn't believe him at first. To them, humans were nothing but a new species barely known in the galactic maps. "Perhaps your fleet failed," one of the counselors said sharply. "Perhaps this is an excuse for your defeat." Virex glared back, his pride still burning. "My fleet has never failed," he growled. "But what we faced near that blue planet was not a weapon. It was a warning." The Council dismissed him, but rumors spread quickly through the Dominion ranks. Stories of the black warship spread to distant colonies and border outposts. Some said it was not human at all. Some believed it was an ancient machine left behind by a forgotten race. Others whispered that humans had made a deal with something older than the stars. Far from the Dominion worlds, other species began to hear the story too. Traders spoke of it in quiet tones. Captains avoided Earth's system, marking it on their maps with caution signs. The name Sol became something said softly with respect and fear. On Earth, things looked peaceful. The oceans glimmered. The cities went on with life as if nothing had happened. Most of humanity didn't even know how close they had come to destruction. Only a few people inside the secret command centers knew the truth. Deep underground, far below the noise of any city, the command team kept their eyes on the black ship that still hovered in orbit above Earth's edge. It was silent, almost asleep, but its presence was felt by everyone who knew it was there. The general who had given the activation order watched the screens carefully. The ship hadn't moved since the Dominion's retreat. It waited calm, patient. "Do you think they'll come back?" one of the younger officers asked quietly. The general didn't answer right away. He stared at the image of the ship, its surface smooth and dark, reflecting no light. "They might," he said finally. "Empires like theirs don't forget humiliation easily. But if they come again, we'll be ready." "Do we even know what that ship really is?" the officer asked. The general looked down. "It's human," he said after a pause. "Built by our hands. But its heart, even I don't fully understand it." The black ship had been created in secret, a joint effort by every human nation under a single command. It was meant as a last resort, something to protect Earth if the galaxy ever decided to turn against them. It used technology that humans had found rather than invented. The records of where it came from were locked away, known to only a few. Some said it had been found beneath the surface of the moon, half buried in the dust. Others said it was a gift from an earlier human age, rediscovered and awakened. Whatever the truth was, humanity had finished it, armed it, and named it the Vigilant Dawn. Its systems were linked to deep Earth networks. It didn't obey individuals, it obeyed humanity as a whole. It reacted to threats to the planet, and only then. That was why it had appeared exactly when the Dominion attacked. It had been waiting for that signal. Weeks after the incident, the Vigilant Dawn sent one more transmission to the ground. A single coded message that only the command staff could read. "Observation mode active. No current threats detected." That short message was enough to make everyone breathe easier. But no one truly relaxed. The Dominion might return, and next time they might not come alone. Far away on the Dominion's border worlds, military leaders were already planning. Some wanted revenge. Others wanted to study the humans to learn their technology. If they built one ship like that, one commander said, they can build more. The idea spread like wildfire. Fear turned into anger, and anger turned into planning. But there were some who saw something different in what had happened. Among the smaller civilizations scattered through the galaxy, the story of Earth became a legend overnight. To them, humans were no longer just another species. They were a mystery, a warning to those who thought power alone ruled the stars. One small trading fleet, passing near the Sol boundary, reported something strange. As they approached the system, their instruments went blank. For 10 minutes, every navigation tool failed. When it came back, their ships had been gently pushed several thousand kilometers off course, away from the system. No weapons, no threats, just a silent push that said, "Stay away." After that, no one tried to enter Sol without permission again. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on quietly. Scientists studied the aftermath of the battle in secret. They found traces of the energy that had erased the Dominion ships. The readings were unlike anything seen before. Patterns of time distortion, gravity fluctuations, and small fractures in local space. One scientist described it best. "It's as if the laws of the universe were rewritten for a few seconds." But even they couldn't fully understand how the Vigilant Dawn had done it. Some began to fear what might happen if humans lost control of their own creation. The general often visited the control room at night. The screens glowed softly in the darkness. He would stand there looking up at the silent ship displayed on the monitors. Sometimes he wondered if they had gone too far, if creating something so powerful had changed what it meant to be human. But then he remembered what the Dominion had done to other worlds. Planets turned to ashes, civilizations erased without mercy. If humanity hadn't built the ship, Earth would have been another dead world in their endless conquest. That thought made him sure of one thing: they hadn't built a monster. They had built a guardian. In the months that followed, humanity began to prepare quietly. The outer colonies, once small and scattered, grew stronger. New fleets were trained not to conquer but to defend. For the first time, the people of Earth worked together without borders, without nations, without rivalry. The memory of the black ship in the sky reminded everyone of what unity could achieve. But in the wider galaxy, fear of humans began to shift into curiosity. Ambassadors from distant species tried to open communication again. They wanted to know more about Earth, how such a small world had built something that could stand against the Dominion. The human representatives answered politely but carefully. They didn't share details about the Vigilant Dawn, They didn't boast or threaten. They just said, "We protect our home like any of you would." That answer left the galaxy both comforted and uneasy, because if humans could protect their home so completely, what else were they capable of? In the cold distance of space, the Dominion rebuilt. New fleets were constructed, stronger and larger than before. Yet something had changed in their leadership. Their council no longer spoke of easy victories or unstoppable conquests. When someone mentioned Earth, the room always went silent. Even Virex, the proud marshal, avoided that name. He had seen something in that ship's silent gaze that he couldn't forget. He had learned that fear didn't always come from destruction. Sometimes it came from knowing there was someone you couldn't understand, someone who looked small but wasn't afraid. Months later, as the Dominion prepared for another expansion campaign in a different direction, one of their scout ships passed near the edge of human space. It detected nothing unusual, but just before it turned away, a faint signal reached them. It was not a threat, not a warning, just a human voice speaking into the stars. "Do not mistake our silence for weakness." The message repeated once, then vanished. The Dominion scout didn't report it to command. The crew deleted the recording and quietly left the area. None of them wanted to draw the attention of the black ship again. Back on Earth, the general stood at the observation deck of the command center, watching the sunrise spread across the horizon. The planet below glowed in gold and blue. The people of Earth were awake again, unaware of the shadow that had passed so close. He smiled slightly. "Let them look at the stars," he murmured. "Let them see us as they wish. We'll stay ready." And above him, far beyond the clouds, the vigilant dawn floated silently in orbit, its surface reflecting the faint glow of the rising sun. It didn't sleep. It didn't need to. It just waited, calm, patient, and eternal. Because humanity had learned something the Dominion never had. Power wasn't about destroying. It was about protecting what you loved, and never letting anyone take it away again. The story of what happened near Earth could not be contained for long. Even though the Dominion tried to hide their defeat, rumors have a way of traveling faster than truth. Traders, mercenaries, and explorers carried whispers of it from one system to another. They spoke of a single human warship that had erased half a Dominion fleet without firing more than one shot. They spoke of a planet that had vanished from scanners and a fleet that returned home broken, frightened, and silent. At first, no one believed it. The idea sounded impossible. The Dominion were the strongest force in the known galaxy. How could a small world on the edge of a spiral arm stop them? But the more the story spread, the more details began to match. Different sources told the same tale. The same black ship, the same warning, the same voice that told the Dominion to leave. Soon, even the Galactic Council, the ancient assembly that governed neutral space, began to ask questions. The council was made up of dozens of powerful species who had watched the Dominion grow stronger year after year. Some of them feared that the Dominion's defeat would throw the galaxy into chaos. Others were simply curious about humanity. They called for a meeting, inviting representatives from every major species, including the humans. The humans arrived quietly. Their ambassador didn't wear armor or bring soldiers. He was calm, polite, and spoke with the same confidence that had confused the Dominion. When the council members asked him about the battle, he didn't deny it, but he didn't boast either. He simply said, "The Dominion entered our system uninvited. We asked them to leave. They refused. So we made sure they understood." Some of the council members laughed softly, thinking it was a joke. Others leaned forward, listening carefully. One of the older counselors, whose people had suffered under Dominion rule, asked, "What is this weapon you used? How did you destroy their ships without firing?" The human ambassador smiled faintly. "We didn't destroy them," he said. "We removed the threat. There's a difference." That answer made the room fall silent. The translator machines clicked softly, trying to find the right words, but even they couldn't explain the meaning fully. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. The humans weren't angry or proud. They sounded disappointed. After the meeting, the council chambers were filled with quiet discussion. Some called the humans dangerous. Others said they were the galaxy's best hope against the Dominion. But no one knew what humanity really wanted. Far away on Earth, life continued as usual. The people still went to work, children still played in the parks, and most didn't even know their planet had become a legend across the stars. The leaders of Earth wanted to keep it that way. They believed the less the galaxy knew about their defenses, the safer humanity would be. Inside the secret command center, the general watched new reports coming in from deep space. The Dominion was rebuilding faster than expected. Their engineers were developing new energy weapons and experimental shields. "They're scared," one of the analysts said. "Scared species build faster," the general nodded. "Let them build," he replied. "Fear makes mistakes." The vigilant Dawn still floated above Earth's orbit, its systems quiet. Every week it sent a small coded signal to the command center, a sign that it was still awake. Its presence had become part of the planet's silence. Pilots sometimes saw it as a faint shadow when they left orbit. To most it was a rumor, a story told in quiet voices among the military. One day something new appeared on the scanners. A small ship entered the edge of the solar system, broadcasting a request for peaceful contact. It wasn't Dominion. Its markings belonged to a neutral exploration group from a distant civilization. They wanted to visit Earth not for trade, not for war, but for understanding. After long discussion, permission was granted. When the alien ship entered Earth's orbit, it was met by a single human escort vessel. The visiting crew was surprised by how small and simple it looked. "This can't be the race that stopped the Dominion," one of them whispered. But when they landed, what they saw changed their view completely. They were greeted not by soldiers but by scientists, engineers, and farmers. Humanity wasn't a warlike species, and it was a creative one. They saw cities full of light, oceans clean and alive, and people working together. The visitors realized that humans didn't just build weapons. They built futures. One of the alien delegates asked the general directly, "Why do you hide such power? You could rule the galaxy if you wanted." The general smiled gently. "Because ruling others always ends the same way," he said. "Someone stronger comes along. We've seen enough of that story. We'd rather write a new one." That answer spread faster than any weapon story. Across the galaxy, smaller civilizations began to admire Earth. They saw hope in the idea that strength didn't have to mean domination. The Dominion, however, saw it differently. They saw it as defiance. Months passed and tension grew. Dominion warships started patrolling closer to the borders of human space again. They didn't attack, but their presence was a reminder. They hadn't forgotten. The Galactic Council tried to calm the situation, but the Dominion refused to listen. "The humans embarrassed us," one Dominion general declared. "Their silence is a challenge." The human fleets began quiet drills in the outer systems. They didn't prepare for war. They prepared for survival. Their ships were smaller than the Dominion's, but faster, smarter, and run by people who had learned through hardship. Every soldier trained not to conquer, but to protect. The Dominion made the first move again. A small squadron of their ships entered a human colony zone, pretending it was a navigational error. The humans didn't respond with fire. Instead, the vigilant Dawn appeared in their path, just as it had before. Its arrival was calm but final. The Dominion ships froze, their weapons still powered but unused. The ship's black surface reflected their lights like a mirror. A voice came through their channels, soft and steady. "You were told not to return." This time the Dominion ships didn't attack. They turned and left without a single word. News of that second encounter spread even faster than the first. The story of the human warship became a legend that even children on distant worlds whispered about. Some called it a ghost. Some said it was a living machine that felt emotion. Others said it was a guardian built by a planet that refused to die. In the Galactic Council chambers, the debate continued. Some argued that the humans should share their technology for the good of all. Others feared that giving such power to anyone would destroy balance in the galaxy. The human ambassador listened quietly and then said, "We share what builds life, not what ends it." That statement became known across the stars. It appeared on trade stations, on education walls, even carved into stone monuments. We share what builds life, not what ends it. It became a philosophy, one that slowly began to influence other species. Small nations that had once lived in fear of the Dominion began to form alliances. They built defense networks not to attack but to stand together. Humanity became a symbol of resistance, though they never claimed that title themselves. Back on Earth, the general walked the quiet halls of the command center. He stopped before a large screen showing the Earth's blue curve, with the vigilant Dawn a dark shape above it. He remembered the day the Dominion first appeared and how close they had come to losing everything. "We didn't win because of a ship," he said quietly to one of the young officers standing beside him. "We won because we refused to be like them." The officer looked at the screen, watching the slow movement of the stars. "Do you think they'll ever learn?" he asked. The general sighed. "Maybe one day, or maybe not. But if they come again, we'll remind them." The Dominion, though quieter now, continued to grow restless. They couldn't accept a world they couldn't control. Yet deep within their ranks, some younger officers began to question their leaders. They had seen what happened to those who underestimated humans. They started to believe that cooperation was stronger than conquest. Change began slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, but it had begun. Across the galaxy, the name of Earth carried weight, not because it ruled, not because it conquered, but because it endured. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the vigilant dawn drifted like a shadow, always watching, always silent. When the stars above Earth flickered faintly one night, the general received a small coded message from the ship. Only 3 words appeared on his screen. "We remain ready." He smiled faintly. Outside, dawn was breaking over the planet once more. The sunlight touched the oceans, the mountains, and the cities full of life. The people below had no idea of the battles fought to protect them, and that was exactly how it should be. The galaxy would continue to change, but one thing was certain: humanity would not be forgotten again. The black warship above Earth stood as a reminder to every world that courage and peace could live in the same heart. And for those who still thought humans were weak, the quiet ship among the stars was always there to remind them otherwise. The galaxy never forgot what happened near Earth. Years passed, yet the memory of that silent warship stayed alive in every corner of known space. Traders spoke of it in quiet tones, and captains swore that sometimes when they passed near Sol, their sensors picked up something watching from the dark. Some thought it was imagination. Others knew it was real. The vigilant dawn became more than just a ship, and it became a symbol. To many it represented justice. To others, fear. But to humans it was simply a promise. A promise that no matter what happened beyond their borders, Earth would remain safe. In the heart of the Galactic Council, debates about humanity still filled the Great Chamber. Some council members wanted to invite humans to take a greater role in interstellar politics. They said humans had wisdom, caution, and strength. Others warned that giving too much power to one species could break the balance. The council could not agree. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued quietly. Technology advanced, cities grew taller, and people started to look toward new worlds again. Colonies spread to nearby systems, each one a reflection of humanity's spirit, small, determined, and ready to defend themselves if ever tested. The generals who had once led during the Dominion incident had grown old. They spent their days training new officers, teaching them not just how to fight, but how to think, how to protect, and how to understand. "Weapons mean nothing without purpose," one of them often said, "and our purpose is peace." But far away, beyond known space, the Dominion began to move again. Their empire had fractured after the incident at Sol, torn between pride and fear. Many of their worlds had started to question their rule. To hold power, the Dominion's high command decided to remind the galaxy that they still existed. They gathered a fleet once more, smaller than before, but fueled by anger and desperation. The Dominion didn't announce their targets this time. They wanted revenge, not conquest. They wanted to prove that humans were not untouchable. At first, they struck small colonies, hoping to draw Earth's attention. Human defense fleets responded swiftly, saving most of the colonies but losing some outer settlements. The news spread fast. The Galactic Council watched in silence, afraid that any involvement would spark a full-scale war. One night, inside Earth's command center, the deep space alerts went off again. A cluster of Dominion ships had entered human space, larger than any attack before. They were heading straight for the central trade routes, lines that connected dozens of human colonies. The officers moved quickly. Orders were sent. Fleets were prepared. And above Earth, the vigilant dawn awakened once again. For months, the ship had been silent, floating like a shadow. Now its engines came alive, glowing faintly against the black sky. Every satellite around Earth recorded the same signal, the same 3 words it had always used before. Sol Defense Protocol. The old general stood on the command deck, watching as data streamed across the screens. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said quietly, "They've made their choice." The Dominion fleet moved fast. They crossed 3 systems in a single day, their ships burning with bright energy trails. They believed this time would be different. They had studied the human warship for years, trying to understand how it worked. They thought they had found a way to block its systems. But when they reached the midpoint between Mars and Jupiter, the stars dimmed again. Space itself seemed to twist, and out of the distortion the vigilant dawn appeared, calm, steady, and unshaken. The Dominion admiral gave his command. Hundreds of ships opened fire at once, launching everything they had. The space around the vigilant dawn lit up like a storm, yet every blast simply vanished before reaching it. The human ship didn't move. It just waited. Then a message came across all channels, clear, human, and steady. You came again. You still don't understand. No anger, no threat, just quiet certainty. The Dominion's admiral shouted for his fleet to continue firing. But before the next volley could leave their cannons, strange distortions began appearing across their ships. One by one, their power systems failed. Engines shut down. Weapons froze. The vigilant dawn didn't fire a single shot. Instead, it sent a pulse across the entire battlefield, a silent wave of light that reached every ship at once. The Dominion vessels began to drift, powerless. Communications broke apart. Navigation went dark. Then, slowly, each ship turned as if guided by invisible hands facing away from Earth. The human warship's voice came again. This is not your war. Go home. Moments later, the Dominion ships were gone. Not destroyed, not erased, simply sent back to the edge of their own territory. Every surviving crew member would later swear that they had no memory of what happened between the battle and their return. It was as if time itself had been rewritten. The galaxy watched in silence. Even the council chambers were still for days. No one dared to question humanity again. The Dominion's fleets never entered human space after that. Their empire began to fade slowly, consumed by its own divisions. Months later, a transmission was sent from the Galactic Council to Earth, inviting humans to join them as full members, not just observers. The human ambassador stood before them, looking calm as ever. "We accept cooperation," he said, "but we will never seek control. Power without balance destroys everything it touches. You all know that." His words earned quiet respect. Even those who had feared humanity began to see them differently. The humans weren't rulers. They were guardians, not because they wanted to be, but because they had learned what happened when no one stood for peace. In time, the vigilant dawn disappeared from orbit again. Some said it was decommissioned. Others said it was sent into deep space to watch over the galaxy from the shadows. No one really knew, but sometimes when a ship in distress sent a distress signal in the dark, it was answered by a faint human voice saying, "Hold on." On Earth, generations passed. The stories became history, then legend. Children in schools learned about the day when a single human warship had stopped an empire. They learned that bravery didn't mean loudness and strength didn't mean cruelty. It meant standing firm when it mattered. One evening, an old officer stood by the ocean looking up at the stars. He had seen everything, the rise, the battles, the peace. He whispered softly to the sky, "We didn't fight to win. We fought to make sure no one else would have to." Somewhere out there, beyond what human eyes could see, the vigilant dawn drifted quietly, its systems still alive. Inside its silent halls, lights pulsed softly, and on its main display a single message remained glowing in pale blue text. The same message it had sent to Earth years before. "We remain ready," and so it was. Humanity didn't seek glory or fear. They sought understanding, and in that understanding the galaxy changed. Empires that once ruled through strength began to see the value of peace. Species that once hid in fear began to explore freely again. The story of the human warship became something greater, a reminder that even in the vast cold of space, courage, kindness, and patience could reshape the stars themselves. And though many forgot the exact details, every world remembered the feeling that somewhere out there, among the silent stars, humanity was watching, not to control, but to protect. Because that was what made them different. They conquered nothing, yet they won everything that truly mattered.